Today on the show, Russia responded to the proposed Ukrainian ceasefire. Mahmoud Khalil's deportation sparks outrage on the left. We'll get into all of that. And Hamas agrees to release the last American hostage. That and so much more. Thanks for listening. Russia has responded to the Ukrainian ceasefire deal. Russia has laid out a list of demands to the U.S. authorities that need to be met in order for the war in Ukraine to end. Reuters is reporting, citing two familiar sources. The request also aimed at resetting the Kremlin's relations with Washington, D.C., the outlet noted. The list of demands came just before Russia's defense ministry announced it had taken over another province within the Kursk region that has been overrun by Ukrainian forces since the surprise cross-border offense in August 2024. The takeover came after Russian President Vladimir Putin visited military headquarters in the region and spoke to military commanders there. Russian and American officials have allegedly discussed the terms over the past few weeks in person and virtually. Early requests included not only not allowing Ukraine to join NATO, an agreement to not deploy foreign troops to Ukraine, and international recognition of Russia President Vladimir Putin's claim that Russia owns Crimea and 4 provinces. As of Wednesday, President Donald Trump was still waiting to hear if Putin would agree to a 30-day truce that Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky agreed to during ceasefire talks in Saudi Arabia. Also on Wednesday, the Kremlin said it was waiting for more details about the proposal before issuing any comments. That was from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Rubio said, "We're going to bring it to them directly. We're going to say that the Ukraine is prepared to stop all battlefield activity and begin an immediate process of negotiating an end of the war." We'll see what their response is. There is obviously a real chance of peace here, the closest we've ever been in years since this war began. My gut feeling says that Russia is not going to accept the deal as it stands. It's just my gut. But who knows? Trump can be very persuasive. We'll see if he's able to get this through. Trump's special envoy to the Middle East is expected to also travel to Moscow this week. A source familiar with the matter told Fox News on Tuesday. Like it says in the article, early requests included not only not allowing Ukraine to join NATO from Russia, and then also Russia's really wanting international recognition that they own Crimea and that it's theirs, and then the 4 provinces as well. Will that be part of the deal, and will they accept it? Who knows? We'll see. Like I've said, many times, this is the closest we've been to peace. This is our biggest chance for it, even if we're not successful. And the United States is unable to get peace with this ceasefire. At least there's an effort to get a ceasefire and to end the war. If Joe Biden was still president, we would still be just dishing out endless amounts of money in this war. There'd be no end in sight. There's this idea of just writing a blank check, it seemed like, all the time when Biden was president. And it'd be the same thing if Kamala was president as well. It'd just be this, let's continue to give them money so they can take the whole country back. But the reality is that's not going to happen, right? It's just not going to happen. Ukraine is just not going to take back all the land it lost in this war. It's just not. I'd hope that Ukraine was coming to that realization that there's no stomach on the American side or internationally to continue the war indefinitely so they can take back all of their country. It's just not going to happen. In other news, police arrest 98 protesters at the Trump Tower calling for release of Mahmoud Khalil. Article says police arrested nearly 100 demonstrators Thursday who stormed Trump Tower in Midtown Manhattan demanding the release of Columbian University activist Mahmoud Khalil. A crowd of 150 occupied the building lobby chanting slogans like "Free Mahmoud," "Free them all," and displaying signs including "Fight Nazis not students, before police broke up the rally, arresting 98 protesters. The protest organized in response to Saturday's arrest of Khalil, 31, who helped lead last year's chaotic anti-Israel demonstrations at Columbia University as a graduate student. A federal judge placed a temporary hold Monday on Homeland Security Department's efforts to deport Mr. Khalil, a Syrian-born Palestinian who resides in the country as a legal resident on a green card. He is currently being held at an immigration detention center in Louisiana. Now, ever since the Trump administration announced they were going to deport Khalil, he is not a U.S. citizen. He's here on a green card, so he was attending Columbia University as a student. He has, since he arrived, been promoting anti-West, pro-Hamas speech. He's been organizing a bunch of rallies within Columbia University. And after the Trump administration announced they were going to deport him, the left lost its mind, of course. They were saying it was unconstitutional. They were saying it was illegal to deport him, even though clearly immigration law is pretty clear that if you're on a green card and you support a terrorist organization and you're promoting terrorist propaganda, that you can be deported, and the Secretary of State has every right to revoke your green card and get you removed. Now, this federal judge has tried to block that and told the Trump administration they cannot do that. So he's currently being held in detention in Louisiana, waiting for the end result of however. Will this go to the Supreme Court? And will they have to decide on this as well? I don't know. Will the Trump administration just ignore the judge's block? That's possible also. Once again, this is a clear demonstration of what happens when a federal judge steps out of line and unilaterally declares that something that a president is doing is illegal and just blocks it by his or herself. And it's not constitutional. It's way too much power to these federal judges. It's been going on for years. You've already seen it several times since Trump has been president. But it does not seem constitutionally right to me. I've mentioned it on previous shows, to have a judge somewhere, a federal judge somewhere, who doesn't like something that a president is doing or a legislative body in a state is doing, and will unilaterally declare it unconstitutional and block it. That's just too much power in the hands of some judge in New York or some judge in Washington State in some district court, able to just block a federal law or a federal executive order from the president. Or in this case, the Trump administration just simply enforcing the law, which is what they're doing. They're enforcing immigration law. This individual, Khalil, is a strong supporter of terrorism, and he's spreading that propaganda on one of America's elite universities, stirring up hatred, stirring up violence. A sovereign country like ours has every right to get rid of him. Every right to. I don't know why this is controversial. The left has been losing its mind on this since it was announced. They've defended this man after all the hatred he spewed out. Anti-American hatred. Because let's be honest, Hamas hates America as well. As much as they hate Israel, they hate America. And when you have an individual who's not a citizen, so this is not a free speech issue, because he's a guest. When you have a green card, you're a guest. You're not a citizen. You don't have the same rights as a citizen, as a U.S. citizen. You are a guest. And if you violate certain rules while you're here, we have every right to get rid of you. I don't know why this is controversial. But it's been all over the internet, all over social media. The left is losing its mind over this. It's amazing to see what they get stirred up about. It's amazing who they end up supporting. This is what you're going to fight for? Is this individual? This is who you're going to defend. These are the same people who would not stand and applaud and support a 13-year-old in the president's speech before Congress becoming an honorary Secret Service agent. They wouldn't stand for families whose husband was killed, who was an officer and was killed by a legal alien. They wouldn't stand for an individual who got into West Point during that speech. They wouldn't do that. But they'll lose their mind over this. It's just amazing what they choose to defend, what they choose to make a big deal about, and then what they choose to be silent over. Don't see how this helps them. I think you ask the average American, should someone like this still be in the country, who is a guest, who's not a citizen? And it's got to be an 80-20 issue, right? It's got to be one of those issues where it's a no-brainer. Of course not. Why? Why would we? Why would we support that? It's just amazing. I don't understand the line of thinking. I'm going to play some audio of some response to Khalil being deported and the Trump administration trying to get him out of the country. Someone who's always interesting to listen to and stuff like this is Senator John Kennedy. He's the senator from Louisiana, and he had this to say.
Right on. Joining me now is Louisiana Senator John Kennedy. Senator, the Trump administration, are they right on this, or is this just a purist free speech play, and this man deserves his free speech rights wherever they take us?
They're right. The ACLU is defending Mr. Khalil. They say this is a freedom of speech case. I support freedom of speech. How else will we know who the idiots are without freedom of speech? This case is not about freedom of speech. It's about civilized behavior. It's about national security. It's about terrorism. Mr. Khalil is not an American citizen. He's here with a green card. By word and deed, at Columbia, he's shown that he supports Hamas. That's a violation of the Immigration and Naturalization Act, which says you can be deported if you support a terrorist organization. Here's the bottom line. Mr. Khalil hates America, as you said in your monologue. If you're not happy where you are, move. You're not a tree. Secretary Rubio is going to help him move.
You're not a tree. He always cracks me up. No, he's right. This is not a free speech issue. The people who are trying to remove someone like him, out of the country are the same people who would defend you if you were trying to same people who would defend you if you were a U.S. citizen, you were saying something crazy and absurd, will defend your right to say that. Like Senator Kennedy says, that's how we know where the idiots are. You have to make that clear. This is not a First Amendment issue. It's just not. We are a sovereign country. You have every right to revoke someone's green card and remove them. You are a guest. You are a guest. If you hate us so much, why are you here? If you hate the West so much, why are you here at one of our universities getting educated? And while you're here stirring up hate against the country you're staying in, against the West, against its allies. I will defend your right, if you are a U.S. citizen, to say whatever you want. Even if it's racist, even if it's anti-American, even if I would say it would be dangerous, even if it's that, I still would defend your right to say it. That's the point of the First Amendment. The point of the First Amendment, free speech, is for people being able to say things that other people are against. That's when it matters. It doesn't matter if we all said the same thing, if we all agreed on everything. It matters when we don't. But Khalil is not a U.S. citizen. He's a guest. He is holding a green card, and the U.S. has every right to revoke it and deport him. Every right. Vice President J.D. Vance was also being interviewed on this subject, and he had this to say.
Or a green card holder, even if I might like that green card holder, doesn't have an indefinite right to be in the United States of America, right? American citizens have different rights from people who have green cards, from people who have student visas. And so my attitude on this is, this is not fundamentally about free speech. And to me, yes, it's about national security, but it's also more importantly about who do we, as an American public, decide gets to join our national community. And if the Secretary of State and the President decide this person shouldn't be in America and they have no legal right to stay here, it's as simple as that.
Do you see more such deportations happening?
I think we'll certainly see some people who get deported on student visas if we determine that it's not in the best interest of the United States to have them in our country. So yeah, I don't know how high that number is going to be, but you're going to see more people.
And we should. Like I said, they're here as guests. First Amendment does not apply to them. If you get here and you start violating the immigration law, you start stirring up hatred and terrorism and support of terrorism and violent protests, then you should be removed. It's kind of a no-brainer. Why is the left defending this? Man, I do not understand. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt also had this to say.
The administration believes that it needs to charge a green card holder with a crime to be eligible for deportation.
Well, in fact, Secretary Rubio reserves the right to revoke the visa of Mahmoud Khalil, and I'm glad you brought this up. Under the Immigration and Nationality Act, the Secretary of State has the right to revoke a green card or a visa for individuals who serve or are adversarial to the foreign policy and national security interests of the United States of America. And Mahmoud Khalil was an individual who was given the privilege of coming to this country to study at one of our nation's finest universities and colleges. And he took advantage of that opportunity, of that privilege, by siding with terrorists, Hamas terrorists who have killed innocent men, women, and children. This is an individual who organized group protests that not only disrupted college campus classes and harassed Jewish American students and made them feel unsafe on their own college campus, but also distributed pro-Hamas propaganda, flyers with the logo of Hamas. That is what the behavior and activity that this individual engaged in. And I have those flyers on my desk. They were provided to me by the Department of Homeland Security. I thought about bringing them into this briefing room to share with all of you, but I didn't think it was worth the dignity of this room to bring that pro-Hamas propaganda. But that's what this individual distributed on the campus of Columbia University. And this administration is not going to tolerate individuals having the privilege of studying in our country and then siding with pro-terrorist organizations that have killed Americans.
And there you go. I mean, that's something else. I mean, this individual is supporting a group, a terrorist organization that not only killed Israelis, not only has done that, but it has also not only kidnapped Israelis, but it kidnapped Americans as well, and has held American hostages. We'll get into the story in a minute, but just now, Hamas is finally releasing the last American hostage. They've been holding Americans as well. And we're going to allow this individual to stay? That's your idea, left? That's what you want to see, is allowing this man to stay in the country, and people like him, who are here on green cards, who are supporting an organization that has been holding Americans as hostages? You've lost your mind. This is a no-brainer issue. Under the immigration law, the United States has every right to remove this individual. Shame on this federal judge trying to block that. He doesn't have to be charged with a crime in order for him to be removed. He's not a citizen. He's a guest. And if we see him as a threat or him supporting terrorism, we can remove him. That is clear within the immigration law. The Secretary of State has every right to do this. Ultimately, it's his job to revoke visas and deal with the green cards and people immigrating to the United States and who's allowed to stay and accepting visas and such. And he had this to say about it.
The United States as a visitor, which is what a visa is, which is how this individual entered this country as on a visitor's visa. Okay, you are here as a visitor. We can deny you that visa. We can deny you that if you tell us when you apply, hi, I'm trying to get into the United States on a student visa. I am a big supporter of Hamas, a murderous, barbaric group that kidnaps children, that rapes teenage girls, that takes hostages, that allows them to die in captivity, that returns more bodies than live hostages. If you tell us that you are in favor of a group like this, and if you tell us when you apply for your visa, and by the way, I intend to come to your country as a student, and rile up all kinds of anti-Jewish student, anti-Semitic activities. I intend to shut down your universities. If you told us all these things when you applied for a visa, we would deny your visa. I hope we would. If you actually end up doing that, once you're in this country on such a visa, we will revoke it. And if you end up having a green card, not citizenship, but a green card as a result of that visa while you're here in those activities, we're going to kick you out. It's as simple as that. This is not about free speech. This is about people that don't have a right to be in the United States to begin with. No one has a right to a student visa. No one has a right to a green card, by the way. So when you apply for a student visa or any visa to enter the United States, we have a right to deny you for virtually any reason.
And that goes to the fundamental issue a lot of times in this debate on immigration and the debate on the visa process and the green card process. It's the idea by many on the left especially, the idea that is that everyone who wants to be in the United States should be allowed to be in the United States. And to me, that is absurd. That if you just because you want to come here, we should allow anyone and everyone. And that was a lot to do with the open border concept by the left and by Joe Biden, by many in the Democrat Party who have this kind of open border mindset that there shouldn't be no borders and there shouldn't be, and that we should allow people to come and go. And if you want to, we should have a very lax immigration policy and that we should have a very lax visa program. And I think that's absurd. We should be able to pick and choose who gets to come here. Either who gets to go on the citizenship process and get on that process and apply and who's granted that, and also who gets to visit, who gets to come here and go to our schools. It should be a very strict process, and we have every right to do that. We have every right to pick and choose. This idea that anyone and everyone should be able to come is absurd. Yes, we should have people who get to come to the United States, people who get to visit, people who get to apply to be U.S. citizens. We should. But not everyone. There has to be a very strict process on who gets to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. Not everyone should be an American. Not everyone wants to acclimate to the American way. And even if you're visiting, if you come here and you're going to stir up trouble, like this individual did and does want to, and many like him, we should not keep you here. So kudos to the Trump administration, to Marco Rubio, taking this action. It's a great thing to finally see leadership that has the strength to do what is necessary and actually look out for American interests first. In a related story, Hamas finally agrees to release the last American, Eden Alexander, the last one they were holding in the Gaza Strip. He's the last living American hostage. Hamas agreed on Friday to release Eden Alexander, the last living American hostage in captivity in the Gaza Strip. Alexander, a 21-year-old Israeli-American, will be released along with the bodies of 4 other hostages, according to a deal offered by mediators. As of Friday, Alexander has been held captive for 525 days. Though he spent most of his life in New Jersey, Alexander was born in Israel a few months before his parents moved to the U.S., according to the American Jewish Committee. After graduation from high school, Alexander decided he would enlist in the Israel Defense Force, IDF, rather than enroll in college. On October 7th, Alexander, who was serving in the IDF's brigade in an infantry unit, was patrolling near Gaza when Hamas attacked Israel. The attacks ended with 1,200 Israelis dead and 251 hostages taken, including Alexander. This is great news. Great to hear that he's finally being released. Can you imagine being held for 525 days in a foreign country by barbarians, pure animals, like these individuals are, not knowing if you're going to live to see tomorrow, not knowing what your next meal is going to be, if you're going to get another meal. Most likely now malnourished, mistreated, most likely seeing other hostages being killed and raped and abused, and then to finally get to be released. Good for him. I'm glad to hear it. In other news, the FDA's Drug Administration Chief Counsel resigned from her position effective immediately after just 2 days on the job amid scrutiny of her record on abortion and vaccines, the agency said Thursday morning. The resignation was due in large part to pushback from Senator Josh Hawley. A White House source familiar with the matter told the Daily Wire. The Missouri senator publicized concern about Hillary Perkins' past defense of abortion drugs and a brief she had signed onto expressing support for President Joe Biden's COVID vaccine mandates, which said objectives to COVID mandates verge on conspiratorial. A source familiar with the conversation between Harley and White House told the Daily Wire that the senator said last night he would vote no if Perkins didn't resign. Perkins' resignation came the next morning. Senator Harley said a Biden abortion lawyer who also defended Biden's offensive and outrageous vaccine mandates had no business working in the Trump administration. So basically he told the Trump administration, hey, the FDA commissioner that you have as a nominee that's coming up on the Senate vote, I'm going to vote no on him unless you get rid of this individual. And once the Trump administration looked into it, they immediately had her resign. So this is great. There's still plenty of Biden leftovers within the government who are still having to be weeded out. But it's individuals like this, Senator Harley, and others who are not going to let things slide by like this. So good for him for taking this stand. This is great. Senator Harley continued, it's critical that the Trump administration is staffed with individuals who are committed to carry out President Trump's pro-life agenda. He added that it's true for this position and a whole host of others. Multiple publications reported this this week that Perkins, a former Justice Department lawyer, was joining the FDA as its chief counsel at the request of the nominee for head of the FDA. Perkins had even added the new role to her LinkedIn profile, which stated she was the FDA's chief counsel as of Wednesday evening. Her tenure was short-lived. Both the FDA and the Department of Health and Human Services deal heavily with how the United States handles abortions, unborn babies, abortion drugs, which it means that the pro-life lawmakers and activists have a vested interest in keeping an eye on FDA and Health and Human Services appointment. Good for him. I mean, good for Senator Harley for being this proactive. This is what we need. This is what you need. This is how you root out all the trash out of your government. Having people like this in the FDA, in the Department of Health and Human Services, with a pro-abortion, pro-vaccine mandate mindset, even if you have people at the top who are against those things, when you have those people on the lower end of the spectrum who are dishing out the orders of the people up top, it's going to hinder that. They're going to hinder that. They're just naturally going to do it. So it's important to weed out all the people who are going to hinder your policies. So it sounds like once the senator started making a big deal about it, and Dr. McCreary, who is the nominee to lead the FDA, hey, once once they all figured out that this was going to be an issue on getting him through, they probably told her, yep, it's time to go. So told Perkins it's time to go. So good for Senator Harley for making this happen. Good for him. That's what we need. We need folks. We need people like that who are going to be diligent and weeding out corruption, weeding out bureaucrats who work within these departments. That's all we have today, folks. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe. Please like us on Facebook. Bye.